The lazy man only remembers that it is time to plant when his neighbor is harvesting.
And I sincerely think that this is going to be our reality in 30 years if we do not wake up and start building homegrown products for us and buyers. Hello guys, it's your girl Kudirat, and you're welcome to the very first episode of the Illuminate African podcast, right? Where we shed light on Africa, everything Africa, tech products, commerce, innovation, all of that good stuff. And the voice you heard earlier, that's Ochu, my co-host.
Hello, Kodirat. And hello, everyone. My name is Ochu. Thanks for the warm intro. I'm glad that we have such a platform like this podcast to discuss so much on Africa. It's something that has always been on my mind, and I'm so glad that we can use this podcast. We can leverage this podcast to inform, educate, and disseminate so much information pertaining to Africa. And then I also like to chip in something. The proverb at the beginning of the conversation, you made mention of something that's what it's going to be in the next 30 years. But I would like to say that next 30 years, is it not already here? How do you see that? Are we not already living the next 30 years with us?
I mean, it's going to be worse, right? It's really going to be worse because products that we currently turn out in Africa has a large dependence on, foreign bodies. So I just feel like in 30 years, we may likely be at the back of the class as always. So this is going to make me ask you this question, because you're saying that, am I certain that the 30 years is not already here? So how would you describe Africa in relation to technology and all of that? In what phase would you say Africa is in currently? That's in relation to what you just said, that the 30 years are already here.
When talking about Africa, to be sincere, I like to talk about Africa with a bit of humor. If you come from Africa, you know the way the continent is, whether you are African grown or you are African who has migrated to the diaspora. The continent is blessed, rich, and it's a whole lot. It's a whole package. But, when you sit down to discuss situations pertaining to Africa, the continent, I would like to use the word, is already challenging, and you do not want to make your life a little bit more challenging. So please, introduce a bit of humor, When you want to talk about the challenges you face, do not say that with a smirk on your face. Just say that with a smile. It makes it easier for you to be able to digest, because this is the reality. In Africa, the challenges we live through it every day. And trying to talk about those challenges with a frown on your face, I think you grow old a little bit faster.
But
So
these are literally same challenges that our ancestors had to deal with. I think it becomes a bit tiring when you have to flog the same issue over and over and over again. Well, I don't know. You seem to be very positive about the challenges, living through the challenges with a positive mindset. But however, you did mention something that is interesting, something that stood out to me, and I'd like you to speak more on it. You spoke about the culture, it being beautiful and all of that. So you think, irrespective of where we are at technology-wise, you think Africa is beautiful?
Irrespective of the nature of this conversation, I must start with my humor. So I would like to say, describing Africa, Africa it's a whole package, I would like to describe Africa starting from its origination, its concept, where it came from. If you are traditionalist, or if you are if you believe in the pre-ancient times, and then you also believe on religion, you know that one of the first sightings of Africa that we are all aware of. Okay, I speak from the Christian perspective, which is a dominant religion in Africa and worldwide. If you look at the Christian holy book, which is the Bible, you will notice that the word Ethiopia, it appears from the Old Testament. It's been there. Mm-hmm. So that gives us a brief idea on the existence of Africa. Mm-hmm. Because we know that landmass in Ethiopia is Africa today, and it has not moved. Mm-hmm. So we can attribute that to the fact that Africa has been there since the onset. It
And
wasn't.
Egypt as well.
And Egypt is also in the Bible, Although Egypt wasn't African, till the whole Arab upspring and stuff like that, and then Egypt have to be like demarcated. But Egypt and Ethiopia give you like there are 2 pointers that show like the existence, the long stay, the originality. It shows you that Africa has been there from creation, and just like other races. Some have been there from creation and some are races who have migrated. But Africa has originality, which means that the culture has been existent way back from like the traditional prehistoric days. So describing Africa or telling someone on Africa is, you have to start from the fact that Africa is one of the first like fundamentals of life. In the Bible, like from the Old Testament, Egypt led. And like the Israelites had to go to Egypt. And so that shows you that Africa has always been there. It has always had potential, So describing the modern day Africa today, we have to talk about the history. So now that we know the history, but the voyagers, they tell us that Africa started in the 15th century BC and stuff like that. And then the Portuguese had to come find the natural land, whatsoever. But Africa is here today, and we have a beautiful continent that is rich in a whole lot of things. A continent with happy people, a continent with young, productive people, a continent that is endowed with so many natural resources, a continent with a very fertile land for agriculture, a continent with a very, very pristine and like clear climate. That is Africa for you. So the abundance of what it has is untold.
The abundance of what we have is untold, which is my problem exactly. I understand that whenever anybody is asked to speak about Africa, we always like to talk about the landscape, the climate, all of that good stuff. Personally, I just would describe Africa as that place where idiots, for the lack of a better word, idiots are at the helm of affairs. Idiots are just piloting things. So it's like this: when you are put in a class with people who you are more, again, for the lack of a better word, more intelligent than, right?
Yeah.
There's a way it sort of subjects you to learn at the pace at which they learn, right? So it reduces the speed at which you move. We have a lot of talent in Africa, right? We have a lot of intelligent people in Africa. But then we are seated on a gold mine. And this is because of some selected individuals, right? The type of mindset that they have. Me, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I love the fact that Africa is beautiful. Like, everybody knows that. Africa is beautiful. We have a good landscape. Then why is it not translating, particularly in technology? If we have all of these beautiful things, why do we depend heavily on foreign aid for literally everything, even for stuff that we grow at home? So this is going to make me ask you one very critical question, Ochu. Then, what makes Africa unique? What makes Africa unique?
Okay, I would like to answer it by saying this. Africa is unique in its own sense, in what it has. But, showing that unique feature out there is what Africa has never really stood out for. Africa has never been able to show the world that, okay, this is what we have, and this is what we should be known for. If you take a look at our other races, I have to draw conclusions, like comparisons to others. When you look at Asia, they have some fundamentals. When you look at China, you have India, and then you look at the America also. Even the Middle East, you could be able to see one or two things. The Middle East has oil, and China has technology. India has domestic production also. You could be able to see one or two things that make them unique. But for Africa, we cannot say it's oil because the oil is there and the people are not seeing the oil. You cannot say it's agriculture because the agriculture is there, and then we have a whole lot of people who are hungry, and you cannot say it's like natural resource because we have so much natural resource and we have the highest population of poverty in the world. But just to keep things a little bit mild, when I speak about Africa, I try not to talk about Africa with respect to the government,
But there is no taking that away. which is
Yeah.
why I'm really pissed right now, guys. I'm really pissed. But let Ochu finish what he's saying.
When I try to address an African populace, I try to talk to Africans, a young group of Africans. I do not try to put in context the government. The government, we can hold responsible and accountable for where we are as at now.
Particularly when it comes to the economics, the commerce and all of that, the agriculture. People make these decisions, right? Even if you want to establish, let's say, a corporation or industry, you want to be planting, a particular crop, and do you know the different levels of agencies you have to pass through, licensing? Why all of those things are good, but they make it difficult, right? I'm waiting for you to clear
no.
us.
Oh, okay. Since you want to hold the government by the shoulders, I prefer to build the cat. For this conversation, I will prefer I keep my thoughts on the government separate, because I don't want to be.
I'm going to catch you still.
I don't want to be one of the people who they will say has started an uprising or.
And that means you are part of the problem. If you don't want to speak about the problem, please, guys, Ochu is part of the problem. He doesn't want to.
The problem exists. The problem exists. The government, the first rule of government, provide enabling environment. In Africa, that is what the government has failed to deliver. We can look at developed countries and look at industrialization, and the more most of their developments, and we can attribute it to entrepreneurial efforts. But entrepreneurial efforts are always backed up, by an enabling environment and good policies by the government. But Africa lacks that. But let me bail on that. I know you are itching to speak. But let me bail on that. Let us direct this. Conversation towards the entrepreneurial efforts of indigenous Africans.
Now, I'm not gonna let that slide, right? I know you're trying to play the safe card. Now, if you're just tuning in, right? We are talking about building your future, right? And like I mentioned before, this is the very first episode of the Illuminate African podcast. I know you guys are going to say, Kudirat is coming with blood and fire. Of course, I'm going to come with blood and fire. I'm an entrepreneur. And I know how difficult the government makes being an entrepreneur, right? It makes it very difficult. People have decided to set themselves apart, build something, right, to scale the economy, to put us on the map. But internal regulatory bodies are making things difficult, not because they're asking you to pass through the right process, right, but because you've put ignorant people in such places, right? They can't even do the correct things. I know that Ochu doesn't want to fight right now, so I'm gonna keep my gloves in one corner and ask you this follow-up question, right? So if we're talking about all of these in relation to, what makes Africa unique and all of that, what would you say is our progress so far in relation to technology, commerce, every life sector? What would you say is our progress so far?
Okay, when we talk about Africa, we do not, there are different sectors, the English speaking, the Francophone, the Arab African, and the Southern African region. Let us give a general overview, and now I will present scorecards for each and every one of them. So let's say I use a scorecard of 1 to 10. When it comes to technology, Africa, I will give 2 over 10, because you know why? There is a rapid growth. Data has shown us that there is a rapid growth now of improvements, especially starting from the post-COVID era. The 2021, if you look at our funding African companies received, startups received, it was massive. They call that era the funding boom. So you could see that technology has begun to become a mainstay. People are beginning to tap into technology, but they're tapping into technology, but are they doing the right things? Are they using the technology to innovate? Not just to continue to ponder upon old solutions. Everybody want to build something, but are you building the right thing?
Or just to get funding? Putting out something just to get funding?
Innovation is not all about technology. It's about refining a process, doing something in a new way, springing up something from nothing, or taking a process that has been there before and doing it a better way to achieve a better productivity. So you have to ask yourself, the African technology which is on the rise, is it innovative? For me, I'll say no. That's why,
Why? Why? Yes, I said I was going to catch you. Why? I need you to state your reasons why.
Are they really doing enough? Are they really innovating? No. Why? I can't answer because I'm not Africa, the whole continent. People have to answer. Those people
You
building
are not
stuff.
Africa. You and I were African. See, let me tell you something. I need you to list a few sectors where technology has been on a rise. Yeah? And tell me what they're doing so wrong. I'm saying this in relation to what you're saying, that there's a boom in technology, but are they really being innovative? So could you list a few sectors of the, like, economy and, okay, this industry, that industry, they have this rise in products, but they're actually not solving a problem. I need you to, like, mention a few so that our listeners can understand.
Okay, in terms of African technology, Africa has one major technology, which is fintech. Which is fintech. And to an extent, they have solved a very, very problematic problem. The movement of money across Africa, be from peer-to-peer to foster trade, from one person to another person. The banking system already in Africa is already a problem. But, with fintechs, they have helped to move the money around. But, that doesn't solve all the questions. They have done so well, but now there tends to be an oversaturation. But, when we are celebrating the fintechs and how they have made it easy for us to move money, you have to ask also, where is the money people are moving? Because people will move money when they have money. So we need to we need to begin to be particular about our technology. It's not just about moving money. Okay, now we have solutions that can help us move money. It means we have solutions that can help us facilitate trade. We have solutions that can help us facilitate the movement of goods and services and move the economy forward. SMEs can be able to exchange and trade easily, and that is the growth we are looking for. But in terms of the technology being innovative and we having our own African products, it's a zero. That is why kudos to all the startups there who are trying to start something. When you go mainstream, and then we can then rise the rating from 2 to maybe 4 or 5. But there is a long way to go because technology impacting lives on the continent is untapped. It's untapped. There is no innovation with the technology. There's no industrialization with the technology. Everybody just doing one particular thing, There's so much rancor on learn digital skills in Africa, but yet still, they are training people to learn digital skills in Africa, to work for remote companies. I will come back to that topic another day. I used to call that modern day slavery, or you growing the white man's economy.
No, I like to
for
put
cheap
it in
labor.
a very you people know Lebuke, right? Laborers. That's what the tech space is looking like right now in Africa, particularly Nigeria, right? We are just training people. Oh, you go and do UI UX. Oh, train for UI. Where is the actual innovation? And I do have a problem with fintech also, right? For a continent that money seems to be one of the biggest issue for us, we do have a lot of fintechs. What are they doing? What exactly are you guys doing? And then the agricultural sector is just there. I did a bit of a report writing, in the African food sector the other day. And let me tell you, I love what South Africa is doing. I love what Kenya is doing, even in Nigeria. But most of the products that are out there, most of the tech products that are out there to aid this sector, they're just like an e-commerce platform, right? Just connecting, local farmers with people in the city who want to get products in bulk. And, I feel like to a certain degree, it's enabling the capitalist system, right? Because you are in the city and you're going to buy those things for cheap. What these people actually need, right, is some sort of system, that is going to, help the production process. Do you understand? Help that chain of production. Oh, we plant, we do this, we do that. Make it very easy. I feel like they could easily take those goods to their local markets and just sell it to people who want to buy in bulk. But like you mentioned, we're going to come back to that, and I'm going to really clear my throat and prepare myself to talk on that.
Okay. Can I interject a little, I interject
please.
a little? No, still speaking on Africa, I know you're prepared to go toe-to-toe with the fintechs, but I will let them be. They have helped a lot. I will let them be.
A lot.
They have helped a lot, irrespective of the shortcomings, as Africans, we should always appreciate the good that someone has done. Let us leverage on that, In some African countries, people do not regard the government. People don't believe that bad people can do good things. People don't believe in that. Someone cracked a joke the other day. It was between Nigeria and Ghana. He said the difference between Nigeria and Ghana is simple. The Nigerian president, the current administration, when he came, nobody expected him to do anything. So the Nigerians can throw shades at him, so that even when he does one good, the Nigerians they will maximize the 99 bad. They don't care because nobody expected anything from him. But the situation in Ghana is a little bit different. The situation in Ghana is that he was seen as the Messiah. When they elected him, they saw him as like the one who will save them. And then he came and flopped really bad. So now, when he does 99 good, they are still looking for the one bad to use to hold him. You see, it's two different scenarios, but it's still lack of delivery.
Yes, period. Simply
it is
put,
lack of delivery.
delivery.
It's a major problem. But I'll let the government bail as usual.
And you like the fintech bill for now too.
They have helped.
I'm coming with blood and fire. I don't even want anybody to bail.
I know the government hasn't helped so much, but fintech to an extent,
degree,
they have helped. They have helped commerce, and also they have helped some untapped areas. But talking about untapped areas, there are lots. The commerce industry, B2B, is stagnant. Why is it stagnant? There is no indigenous production of anything in Africa. Every African man still thinks that, okay, we're going to keep importing. We're going to import from China. I have a container. You claim my port. You claim my DC. We keep importing. Are you importing from Africa? No. Where are you importing from? The overseas. It's a problem.
A big one.
It's a problem. And that is a problem I feel that we will have enough time to still sit down and tackle. But when we are talking about that, let's talk about one thing that it's undertapped in Africa. One sector that is undertapped in Africa, agriculture.
Do you think agriculture is undertapped in Africa?
If agriculture is not undertapped, why does Nigeria have a 32 or 40-something% food inflation? Why did the Nigerian Minister of Agriculture
again? We're going to circle back to what you are trying to say. Oh, don't fight. This is gonna bring me back there, right? This is obviously going to bring me back there. Now, who makes all of those decisions when there is hike in fuel prices, there is hike in a lot of things? It makes life difficult for farmers. Literally difficult. Like, these people are literally the pillars of the nation. And yet, the little things, there is not enough product. There is not enough technology, right? As it is, to boost their production method and distribution, right? These people still largely have to, I'm going to be speaking particularly like using Nigeria as a very, as the example right now. These people, right, in the suburbs, right inside the core north, all of those places, and then some areas in the south and the rest that are majorly into this food production, right? These people literally don't have the technology and innovation, right, to carry the production and distribution process. And then there goes the hike in basic things, right, that would help them. Let's say somebody who uses like a local engine to, process cassava. Those days now, those local engines that they use. And the diesel is just like off the roof.
Okay.
How many liters of diesel are you going to buy to process those? And how are you not going to transport? Please, it's just very natural that it is high. So you guys, if you are just, joining and tuning in, like I said before, this is the Illuminate African podcast by Lucid Africa, yeah? Over here, we talk about everything Africa, particularly tech, innovation, commerce, business, all of those things that are supposed to make us stand out as a nation in relation to our economics, right? So, and just now we're talking about building your future, and we delved into a lot of other things. So, Ochu, I'm going to now say something, right?
No. Before you say sorry, I have to interject again. I have to clear the air. Sorry, I have to interject.
You really need to stop interjecting, okay? Because I know you are doing that to bail out these people. Allow me to rain blood and fire on them.
No. Not like I'm interjecting to bail, but, you, like, the last thing you say, you raised, like, some serious, that speech or that's whatever you try to pass across, it was
whatever I try to pass across. What do you mean?
Your idea, your talk, your idea, it was good, but I'm not like interjecting to bail or interjecting to like stop you from bringing your fire and your brimstone down upon Africa. But okay, this is for me to you. Let's do it like this. Okay, let me ask you. You've been driving the conversation. Let me ask you. in your own way, like for you, how do you think like Africa is underperforming? So that no, when I get that perspective from you, then I can now know how to channel and stop interjecting you. So for you, how do you think Africa is underperforming?
You guys, do you hear that? I need to give an entire speech before he considers interjecting. But I really love this one, honestly, because this one has been big on my chest for a very long time, and I'm never gonna stop talking about it. Because the first thing that I speak to my client about is authenticity. You see, if there's one thing that Africa, I'm not even saying this to discredit all the hard work that people have put in their business, their crafts, their all of that. I'm talking about emerging businesses that are supposed to be solving problems, real life problems. Do you understand? You not coming correct in the sense that you're just starting the business. You didn't do any research, right? You just saw somebody that started selling toothpaste on a magazine cover. They blew up. You don't know why they started it. You don't know how they started it. You don't know for whom. You don't know for what. You don't know the struggles that they went through. You don't even know what makes that brand. And then you just wake up, right? You just want to sell something because you want to make money. At the end of the day, I know I'm one of those people that always say like, bruh, is the money okay? But at the end of the day, that authenticity, I feel like is key, because without it, you can't even drive innovation. If you cannot really sit down, right, look at a situation critically and be like, how is this really affecting people? If I start, okay, for instance, there's water scarcity right now. As an example, in this studio, there is no water. I can decide, you know what, I'm gonna come with bottled water every day, chilled bottled water every day. And guess what Ochu does? He starts coming with bottled water. There is a competition right now. Now, Ochu is coming with those bottled water because I started coming with bottled water. He doesn't know why I started coming with bottled water.
It's a copycat mentality.
Period. And with that kind of mentality, innovation is very difficult. I promise you. And then because it is the new shiny thing. Like we mentioned fintech. I see, we're coming back. You see this blood and fire. In fact, you really touched me. You know this way they say, you touch me where they pain me.
Of course.
Period. You really touched that part, because honestly, it is exhausting. Sometimes when clients come to consult, right, you hear them say things like exactly how they are doing it in that page. That's how I want it done. Just to replicate what's going on there. Everything you see there, that's who we are. Please. So everything, somebody else's output is who you are. And then you are providing a solution. Please make it make sense. I'm speaking plain English. I'm sure that everybody can relate to what I'm saying. Make it make sense. And then how will somebody like that now say, okay, see, this is what people are doing wrong in this industry. Let me really improve it. No. You just have the same thing in different fonts, in different websites, in different domain names, the same thing over and over and over and over again, because there is no authenticity. And that's it. Please, I hope it's not a bill. I hope.
No. You can no. So you're trying to say, one of the the major hindrances to Africa's innovation and Africa's successes is the lack of authenticity. I know that lack of authenticity now hinges on top. It brings forth a lack of innovation.
Period. Because if you've gone to I know exposure is important. It's very okay to consume, all of those content and that. It's good to say, oh, these people are doing this, and see how it's helping their economy. What if we do it, but then you tailor it down to the actual problem that you are solving?
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not even against you having a mood board and all of that stuff. What I am against is trying to fit, how do they say this, a square peg in a round hole. Do you understand? You've gone to copy that solution, but you cannot trim it down to yourself, because first you are able to copy that because you've actually not really taken a step back to see what the problem is. Because if you do, I promise you, most times before another person recognizes that this is a problem, you recognize that this is a problem.
So you say, we predominantly just a copy. Okay, let's say, you come up from like a business perspective, that's why you could use the brands, people come in and saying replicate my business. But I come up from like a technology perspective, and then I also come from like a business and like political perspective also. So you see, like we are underdeveloped, we are underperforming. We see the developed nations, and then the authenticity, like lack of authenticity that you said, we see them and we just go copy and dump. It's the copycat thing. La copy, la paste.
Like it, for me, it's like, other nations are doing census. Oh yeah, let's do census. Why did they call for the census? No, but let's just do. Do you understand? Because it will make us look like an established nation.
So the lack of authenticity, like, because we are not authentic, we do not know how to copy those good things to solve our own problems. I think that is where it's a big red flag. You just copy. Of course, the things you are trying to copy, they are good,
Of course,
because they are worthy to be
absolutely.
copied. They are recommended solutions.
Yeah.
But your demography is different.
Period.
Everything around you is different. And then you just bring, and then you dump, and you don't see results, and then that's also going to copy everything verbatim and dump. Now hinders your own innovation, because you cannot bring forth these things in your own way to help your own self.
Yes, because you are too, for the lack of a better word, lazy to really pay attention. Or the first thing that comes to your mind is, they will not be able to pay me the kind of money I would want to be paid if I do this for them.
Well, okay, that's it's true. But talking about like laziness, I did ask you, why they are underperforming, or you also said the lack of authenticity is also what is affecting us, with the so much rise in fintechs and everybody adopting fintech as the cash cow, and the investors always pouring money back into that. Well, not to like go so far from that, but when I look at Africa and I look at, okay, why are we underperforming? I would like to say, okay, let me put this before I come to that. When you look at every population globally, every human civilization, there are two things that are always used to control or drive a population. Like these two key elements, they are very helpful when it comes to like controlling a crowd or a bunch of people. One is education, and the other one is religion. If you look at like the pre-colonial era, like the era before even the West came, the world was being ruled predominantly by culture, tradition, religion. If that was what we were seeing, and then with education from the West, education now became the yardstick for controlling the population. That's how we brought about systems of government, election, monarchy and stuff like that. So when you look at how civilization has panned out, if you look at the West, if you look at the Middle East, the West has more of education, the Middle East has more of religion to control the whole population, And then when you look at Africa, we have a mix of both, but poorly implemented. Controlling some parts of Africa, majorly controlled by, or before were controlled mainly by religion, which has not helped. Sorry if I'm coming for the pastors and for the imam and for the priests.
Oh, please, let's not. I'm gonna interject for this one. Let's not.
I might choose not to talk about the government, but I don't think I can spare the pastor and the imam and the priest.
Why? Well, okay, please.
Because
you're gonna not do that.
because no, because they are one of the four fronts. The government also has a part to play. In making sure people are properly educated. But this religion that is used to control people.
Religion alone. We elected people for a purpose. Do you understand? Did you go and elect the pastor? Did you go and elect the man? Please leave. If you do not want to talk about the major thing, let's move because
okay. Education. The use of education to control the population. Very decent. If you look at the emerging African economies, like the likes of the Arab Africa and then Southern Africa, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, you will notice that they have a blend of both. But when you look at the underdeveloped part of Africa, that lack of education, the lack of let me rephrase it, right, the lack of proper education, people not knowing what is supposed to be not being taught the right things, the right systems, the right principles, not having like the right.
Please, my hand is up, you guys. That's why he's stopping. By education, please, what do you mean? Because I don't understand. Is it primary education or like lack
Just
of
the
education
basics.
in the sense that you don't like being illiterate about who you are?
Yes.
Is it lack of exposure or lack of school education or paper or whatever, or just lack of not knowing who you really are?
It's a conglomerate of like of all, you know. The illiteracy level in Africa like is too much in the underdeveloped part of Africa. And when there is no proper education, when you have more illiterates than literates, you know, there tends to be a popular ideology with illiterates.
I don't think.
You know, illiterates cannot phantom like the way literates do.
I
Like,
quite disagree that it's illiteracy and education. I just feel like, sorry, see,
no.
I quite disagree with that because I feel like the problem we have as Africans is the greed of those people that you don't want to talk about. That's it. I get it. Education. See, let me tell you something. Do you know how expensive tuition is?
Of course I do.
Even for the public schools. Do you know how expensive it is?
Of course I do.
Okay, so if we're gonna say from the standpoint of these people don't want to go to school, can we really look at it from the standpoint of is school cheap?
You know, that's good to say that. But you know, when these people don't go to school, how are they supposed to know how to develop? How are they supposed to know how to be innovative? Every innovative technology springs up from you having to be well informed, you having to know the basics. So I'm not saying it's like the best institutions, you know, for now. You know, if you look at the amount of people who are educated and those who are uneducated, the gap is, the divide is...
In this case, we mean Western education.
Yes, Western education.
So Western education, I get it, makes us educated. But then what about who we are as a people? Like that's cultural awareness. See, let me tell you something. Because we're always talking about homogeneous products in Lucid and all of that. I feel like if you are not really educated as a person, like you don't know who you are, there's no cultural awareness, you'd never be able to really develop tools that will help us grow. I know that you mentioned education as one of the problems. I'm just saying that I do not quite agree. So you can move on with all of those other problems.
Because I would like to put it like this. Because these people are not aware enough, their ideology is poor. They don't know that they need to innovate. They don't know that to champion an economy, you need industrialization. You know, they don't know that, you know, to grow an economy, you need more of horizontal collaboration rather than vertical collaboration. They don't know these things, you know. They don't know these things. And these are the building blocks of every economy. You know, the African economy lacks so much in terms of industrialization that you begin to wonder, how do you have such a young continent with such a high number of like workable age, like, you know, one of the world's leaders, like in terms of labor force, and then you have zero to like no industrialization. Look at the numbers that are like that Asia is churning out. You know, look at the numbers Europe is churning out. We have a population in Nigeria alone that can compete with Europe. Like numbers in Nigeria alone, the workforce in Nigeria alone can compete with the whole of Europe, yet underdeveloped. Why? Then I tend to ask myself, why are people not able to recognize this? These are the problems. We cannot, people are unable to recognize the fact that only industrialization, the dirty work, you building those factories by yourself.
The dirty work, yes.
Those, if you look at Europe, they were there before. They worked the coal mines.
Pine, the dirty work, like
they worked,
need to get your hands
in America, they worked in the fields.
Process.
You know.
Really?
They worked in the fields. They used their hand to till the land. You know, that is what makes you who you are. But in Africa, we tend not to do that. So, like, one of the areas that is supposed to champion industry is agriculture. That's why I told you, underperforming. That's the truth. You know, underperforming, not in terms of manpower, but in terms of, like, the innovation, like the industrialization, the technology to drive it to bigger level. Underperforming. Blame the government, blame the people. It's all sides. Both sides of the coin. They have to take it. So, the lack of industrialization is a very, very, like, big, challenging problem in Africa.
A very big one.
Should we have crossed those barriers? You know, those are the barriers I told you that affect like most of like those are the early cause problems in Africa. But now let me talk about why we are not still there up yet, even though we have broken out a little. For those who have been able to break out from this little subset, who understand that, okay, it's more about industrialization, who have the right education, who are literate enough, they understand government, they understand money, they understand business, they understand entrepreneurship, they have the right mindsets. These ones, they also face another kind of problem. Funding. Funding.
This brings us to the king of all.
Funding, another big problem in Africa. I'm telling you, funding. I'll divert a little bit. There's a song by Buju. There's a line that says in pidgin English, that is like native African language, if you get money, it a kill idea.
It a kill idea, really?
Very, very concise line. That line should be pinned. Every family should pin that line in their house. Funding in Africa, it's hard to come by. As I told you, this is a problem being faced by, it's not the rural problem now. It's being faced at the rural level also. But for those who are innovative, that want to take the next step, funding is a bigger problem. Then you begin to ask, you look at the African startups, you look at those solving technologies. Why is there so much dependence on foreign investment? Very, very big red flag. You might say, unicorn, they're building unicorn, left, right, center, but it's a very, very big. Why don't we have Africa being able to raise money to fund its own industrialization? Not all the money should come from IMF. There are Africans who have money, but
so
what
they should just bring out the money from their pockets.
What do they do with the money? Okay. I'm going to paint a very funny picture to you. The Europeans have money. The Americans, the Westerners, they have money. They come together, pull this money together.
I think it will be worthy to know a few like organizations that do these fundings here and there.
No. See,
we have Tony Elumelu does.
Tony Elumelu, Alakija for Lawrence Alakija.
Yeah, and then the Lions also. The Lions are on TikTok, right? That's why not on TikTok, but that's why I've seen most of their like videos. So there are a few of those.
It's there, but it's few. Those few. Look at the population.
Oh, and it's very they're very, very.
Look
very
at some. I saw Tony Elumelu Foundation once upon a time, and they had 800 employees. How is he going to give money to 800 people? It's not enough.
That's one man. Then imagine
that is one man.
Imagine when others
could come in and help. See, entrepreneurship is the building block. Those SMEs, entrepreneurs, they are the building blocks of an economy, not the wealthy politician. People feel that when you have 2 Jeeps, 3 cars, and you are a wealthy politician, then you are running the economy.
They can never be acquainted of the fact that they were elected there to make the process of the entrepreneur very easy, right? By putting policies and all of these good things in place. You cannot build this. See,
see, the African politician continues to steal. I told you, because the people are not aware. In the Western world, if you take public money, they call you a thief because you are taking taxpayers' money. People work hard. See, the Africans need to begin to understand that, politicians are being paid from taxpayers' posts. Government is not a get rich. Government is not an employment for you to get rich. But funny enough, it is the opposite here. Government is not an employment for you to get rich.
Not be Africa, you there. Are you not?
Once you want to get rich in Africa, you get into the government and then you become rich. That's not how it's supposed to be. Government officials are paid from taxpayers' money. Now, flip the coin. That's not even how it's been done in Nigeria. Because now, government officials are being paid by money borrowed. The government borrows money or accrues debts to pay these people for you to do something, and they are not doing enough. I told you, let the government slide a little bit.
Just administrative.
It's just an administrative work. They are not even the ones out there doing the work. But looking back at it, funding. Why is funding so hard to come from Africans? It's a very big problem. Why do we have so little options? Tony Elumelu, why don't we have more? Look at the population in the West, and they have so many investors, so many venture capitalists, so much that they are not even supporting the West again. They are coming to support.
Or maybe there are, they just don't make enough noise about. But I feel like if you have something like that, you should make a lot of noise.
When you look at an African man and you ask him, for the wealthy, those who have money, what are his investments? Can he pinpoint it? Or he's telling you he's hiding the money in a Swiss bank and is going to use it in 2 to 3 or 4, 5 years when the currency exchange rate in his country has doubled. What is the investment? Why don't you come together, use these funds, improve? I agree, if you do steal money, why don't you steal the money and use it to grow something in your land? Why do you steal the money and you go and hide in Luxembourg? It's not helping. Funding is hard to come by for Africa. And we need to do a separate episode to really discuss why those who want to improve the continent struggle to come by with decent funding, and then it kills the idea. Another thing we also need to look about to talk about truly is collaboration. Africa looks as if it is one, but yet still it is not one.
Obviously.
Arab Africa is different from Western Africa, is different from Southern Africa. This is one continent, but due to cultural influx, the gap is wide. One thing that makes Africa feel it is one is the black skin. So far, he has black skin and I have black skin, we are the same. However, their cultures differ. When you go to Uganda, Kenya, the way they live there is not the way they live in Western Africa. It's not the way they live in Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Nigeria. It's not the same. And then when you go to Arab,
there are regional differences.
There are regional differences. So Africa is not one. However, the problem faced is by all.
It's one problem.
It's one problem.
That's why united by that problem.
We're united by one single problem called poverty. It's what unites us.
No. Mismanagement of talent and funds.
Which brings poverty.
Talent mismanagement.
Is poverty the problem or not?
Why are you calling the results instead of what led to the results?
But see, funding is hard to come by. In Africa, it's hard to come by. Well, and then there's lack of collaboration. Why do we have African countries who are not able to trade properly? ECOWAS has tried, they have done a good initiative. You can move in between African nations without visas. And, these are trade barriers. There's also the AFTA protocol. Decent protocol that was introduced to improve business within African countries, yet to be implemented, or the adoption is not currently yet. The ports, why do we have issues at our ports? Why is our transport system hard? Why are there no intercoastal highways, for people, for goods and services to be able to move? Why do we have importation barriers if we are all one? These are the little problems we face. I think even in terms of transport, there was a time, someone complained of, he had to go from maybe Ghana. He wanted to go from Ghana to Rwanda. And he had to go to Europe before coming back to Rwanda. Can you imagine? I don't understand.
Oh my goodness.
All these factors have hindered collaboration. And when you all face one problem, the best way out of that problem is for everybody to put hands together, bring their different solutions and solve that problem. Their different expertise to solve that problem. We face one problem and yet we are not collaborative enough.
Because even if all these people do come together, even on smaller scale, right? Even when these people do come together, if there's no accountability, you may have all of this, it now goes to work. See, it is just a rot. Honestly, you see this mindset thing is a rot that has really, really eaten deep. Do you understand? So let's say these people do come together. There is, okay, people are managing talent well. There is the funding and all of that. They really do set up, these committees, these small things to accelerate, all of these innovation that we're talking about. Now, the person who is going to be overseeing that, is the person going to be accountable? Does the person understand the urgency of that need?
If the person is not accountable, who lets lack of accountability flow? It's the people.
We just need a sensitization, nationwide sensitization thing that will go on for a very long time.
What did I say was the first problem? Education. These people...
That's why I asked, is it cultural education in relation to knowing who you are, or Western education? Because if it's Western education, forget it. We have it in Africa. It is really knowing us, paying attention to us as opposed to what we've been told about us. Do you understand?
Of course I do. Of course I do. So please, kudos to all those doing, education,
Amazing, yeah,
trying
it's
to inform
amazing.
people. Those are
Oh my
doing both
goodness.
regular education or those doing political literacy. All those efforts are what we need. We need proper sensitization. We need proper funding. We need African countries to begin to collaborate.
That sensitization
I saw
is very. Imagine if in church innovation was being talked about like a normal thing, like an open thing, something that relates to growth. I know we're not talking in that direction, but in like every sector in schools, we're saying the same thing, prioritizing the need for innovation. In churches also, those small units you belong to, everybody talks about the growth.
we need
Is
more of that,
sensitization. I know that is not going to happen, because if not, Tower of Babel would have prevailed. There's going to always be differences. But I'm just saying that sensitization really, like mainstream media, that sensitization is really important.
And thank God for like communication. Take like smartphone era. At least we have been able to begin to achieve this little by little. That's why I said, like, we are taking steps here. If we are not taking any steps, it would have been horrendous. But how fast can we move? Because it is needed faster. Like, we need more free trade zones. Why are countries or people doing businesses, like, why are there no free trade zones? How many tax levers? These are the things we need. For example, in Nigeria, there's no intercoastal highway. The first one is the one like the present administration is trying to establish. All these things are hindering the movement of goods and services and products. This is what we need. That is the problem. Let's begin to solve them. Let's begin to be able to move products from one African country to the other one without so much customs hulabaloo. Why
you see fintech, customs, all of them, there's a day for those.
There's a day for every sector, but at least I'm glad that we are also playing our own part here at Lucid in trying to educate people, in trying to talk about these issues, trying to reach out to people, that let them know that the West is developed to the region, like to the extent to which they are, because they are implementing these things.
Yes, they paid attention to their problems,
and they solve them. So these are our problems. Let's begin to pay attention to it. If Nigeria cannot produce enough food, we can help. We can get help from different.
No, do you know what another big issue is? Let's say there are really hardworking Nigerians out there that are producing made in Nigeria, and now there comes another big problem. I only eat foreign. Is it Nigeria made? Please, I beg, go.
I don't know what.
That's what I'm saying. Do you understand?
Ideology problem also.
Is a problem.
I don't eat local rice. I only want to eat foreign rice. I was looking at something like the other day.
And you complain that the price of the foreign rice is too high.
It's too high. It's being imported. Your currency is losing value. You cannot produce. You have a soil that can grow rice in all northern Nigeria, southern Nigeria, middle belt. All can produce rice. Yet you prefer to eat foreign rice. And then you complain that the price of the rice is going up. If everybody could farm, if most people could farm, why won't those prices drop? We have to begin to look at our own selves for solution. I saw something like, I've been privileged to travel, across some African countries, and then I saw in Francophone Africa, there's a particular bread they eat, is made from cassava. Where is cassava grown? In those countries. There's so much cassava in those countries. Cassava is something that can grow in large amounts. You can have hectares of cassava farms across West Africa. It's something that is popular across West Africa. So what did they do? They use that cassava to make bread in different flavors. Up to now, I think I need to ask the Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria why cassava bread is not being popular in Nigeria. And over there, the bread is so cheap. Why in Nigeria we prefer to eat wheat bread? Grow the wheat, we do not. Where is the wheat imported from? Jerusalem. What's happening in Jerusalem? War. When war happens, people get rich, things get expensive. So part of the issues you are even seeing is not just the Nigerian naira falling. It's part of the source. When you are always importing and your source.
It's problems from different
angles.
Yes, small problems, small loopholes and everything.
That when you block
making,
them, when you block them, why up till today in Nigeria, why is there no adoption of bread, of cassava to make bread? But there's adoption of cassava to make gari And gari is
that's where
everybody's food.
Yes.
Both the rich and
But
the
you're
poor.
not gonna eat that same bread.
Okay, you can use the same cassava to drink gari.
Make a banana.
And the poor man can use it to drink gari and
Yes.
survive. And now, but the poor man too, if they
It's even how they even labeled those things, poor man food.
poor man food, see, one thing I noticed in some
I
other
want to innovate and go.
one thing I noticed in francophone African countries was like they eat the same thing. In francophone Africa, there's this diet called acheke, and they eat it like everybody does eat it, and it's made from cassava, the same cassava that we have in Nigeria in abundance, and then they use it to make gari, and the poor will not eat gari. Of course, the poor will go and eat high for that, and then I said the poor will eat gari, the rich will not want to eat gari, and then the poor will want to copy. You will not know that there are levels to this economy power. Why can you eat gari but you cannot eat cassava bread? I said up till now, the bread manufacturers, are they innovating? This is the problem you're asking. What is innovation? Something new in a better way. Are they innovating? The cost of wheat is going up. What do we have? Can we get some wheat and add more of cassava and drop the prices? They are not innovating. If wheat goes to 1 million per bag, they buy 1 million per bag and come and sell one loaf of bread, 10,000. That is the problem. Who is going to disrupt all these things? That is what we are looking to educate the people about.
There was one hilarious picture I saw on X. I saw one hilarious picture on X. The bread was it 71,000 naira for the bread? People's reaction had me going.
Who's going to buy that to eat?
I'm not ever hungry
naira.
again. What is in
a loaf of bread
for 71?
That's more than the country's minimum wage.
Is it lifestyle you want to call it, or you just
I hope like at Lucid here, and I hope with this podcast, we can begin to sensitize people. There are untapped, as I told you when we started, there are lots of untapped areas. If we go back, we have no research. When you go to Google and you're looking for solutions, the most solutions you see are from Western journals, Indian journals, our own journals. When they give students to do project, they go and copy those people also and bring, lack of authenticity. You copy them, the problem is pertinent to them, you bring them.
Yeah,
the solutions are not working here.
One thing that I would say, we've really hammered on these problems. We've really, really hammered on them. One thing that I'm gonna say, moving on, now that we're finished talking about the problem with our chest, moving on, here's what I would say we should do in that sensitization aspect, right? Because you said it's not, it's lack of education. But in this scenario, I don't think lack of Western education, right? Knowing who we are as a people and what will work for us. Do you get? I think it has to be that sense of community building has to be there. Do you understand? Because you know how the unit is like that. There's the family unit, then there's the street that you live in. That's where the small communities, right? So I feel like the lifestyle, first of all, every community mirrors is very, very important. Do you understand? At the end of the day, that's what really makes us African, that community part of it. So I feel like that's where the work should start from, passing down those information, letting those people know that all of those things that you do when you improvise, for instance, when you want to move your cassava, all those farmers, all those boys, they can be very sharp. They want to help their mom move the goods. So because they've carried this cassava this way for a very long time, you see them inventing all these small bags, and most of the time, those type of innovations are very, very, they're not encouraged. They're not encouraged.
Yes.
So, but if there's a sensitization to let people know that all of those small things that you do is what technology and innovation is about, keep it up, and have people really sponsor and push this thing, they'll be like...
see, the truth is that we have those innovations, but they're not encouraged. Our technical schools are not producing those kind of tools. Our technical schools are not working.
Especially boys in the north, they are very gifted with their hands.
Okay. I'll tell you a little story, I saw in the north, having opportunity to travel both, northern Nigeria, southern Nigeria. In northern Nigeria, I saw someone making ridges with a wooden tool. He was just strolling through the farm and just turning the wooden tool. I have never seen that tool in my life. It's made from wood, which tells you that it is local. However, he managed to construct that thing to help him make those ridges. He was just walking and just turning the tool. It was just like a bicycle. And he was making the ridges. I've never seen that tool in my life. So why are we not picking up on those things, using it to empower farmers?
See,
like what
this
you said,
conversation.
the conversation, we don't want to talk again on the problems. We need to be able to begin
Yeah,
to
to
like
give them a
provide solution.
solution. So the community, let's leave it there. We need the community. There's a community part of it, and for us at Lucy, we know that being an entrepreneur in Africa is a very grueling process, right? You're smiling today, you're crying tomorrow, because sometimes you're happy, other times the process is really really exhausting. You try to get on some third party platforms to push your operations. All of this is exhausting, and honestly you still have to pay salaries. It's really tiring. So for us at Lucid, we have devised a way. I'm going to be putting this really really simply. We have devised an accelerator type of thing to help, not just tech startups, but just if you're an SME, if you're a business owner, no matter how small scale you are, that we have put a process in place to help you enjoy the benefit of having a company owning an entire team of operations managers, business developers, product team, and all of that, without having to go through the hassle of looking for one or employing and paying all that plenty money.
And just to add to that, Lucid Africa is your product co-founder and your business operator. We are focused on improving like product delivery in Africa, and also redefining the business process in Africa. So that's just a summary of what Lucid is. And I think our time is almost up. We have to go now. It's been such a good conversation, but irrespective of all the rants, let us just state out those notable mentions on the continent. It's good to always state that even when there are difficult times, there are also good times. Take a look at like the Tunisian ecosystem, like the Tunisian tech ecosystem. They are one of the forerunners, of AI. Even before you have all the ChatGPT and the OpenAI stuff and Google's Bard and Gemini and all those stuff, Tunisia already had AI, like an AI startup that is like doing so well. So that's so like, it's good to note that like at least you could see that technology in Africa is not just all about fintech, And also it's good to note that Tanzania, they recently declared like 128% food like sufficiency. Just imagine where you have on a continent where you have some African countries that are doing so poor, struggling like with poverty. Then you also have someone who has like 128% food sufficiency. This is what we're talking about. Okay, we need to begin to ask, okay, what are they doing right? Can we copy it? Can they extend like it others, like just to boost productivity? That is what it's all about in Africa. That's what that growth should be all about, empowering ourselves so that we can become better as a continent. So, okay, thank you for listening. That's
Has been an amazing conversation. Remember, guys, we were talking about building your future. And like I said before, this is the very first episode of the Illuminate African podcast. Thanks for listening and chit-chatting and laughing with us, and also shedding light on, Africa's innovation and challenges. We're going to see you next time. Remember to stay tuned, right? Let's continue this conversation. Bye, guys.
And please,
I was going to say bye, guys.
Please, before you go, before she tells you bye and before you go out there, remember, you have to build your future. In Nigeria, I will speak it in pidgin, If you don't build your future, please hustle now.
You will suffer if you
don't build your future. At the end of the month, you go end up to reduce your belt hold.
If you like, listen to all the motivational people, you go suffer.
Please build your future and go out there and do something and begin to impact the continent. So, thank you, guys.
Bye.